Hello, everybody.
Welcome back to Glitter Gel Pen.
Episode 8, and Merry Christmas.
Jingle all the way.
We're matching, and we said we feel like little children.
Yeah, the outfits are from Carter's,
yes.
So that adds to the children feel. But this is our last, well, this is pretty close to Christmas. This is coming out on December 23rd, so Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Merry Christmas Eve.
And we've got 2 more days of Podmas coming out. The final day will be Christmas Day, so hopefully y'all are enjoying that.
Yeah. So what's happening this week? What's going on with you?
Well, I feel like I like to listen to our episodes back, especially last week, because I hadn't slept very much.
Still?
No, I have now.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in a much better headspace. I was like angry with the internet last week.
Yeah.
And it's been nice to like revisit the topics that we talked about and then like watching other people's takes on it. And I feel like some of my perspectives on things that we discussed last week have changed. But last night was crazy. So I think I saw a UFO.
No.
I swear. Like, I've never seen anything like this before. Have you ever seen anything that's like been weird?
No, but could it have been a drone?
No, it wasn't.
It was not
okay.
A drone?
So I was driving in the car and I noticed like an orange like glow, but we live really close to the airport. So I was like, oh, it's obviously an airplane. But then I was like, no, it's like really big. And then like my brain's first thought was meteor headed our way. They haven't told us that we're about to die. So
okay, I'm glad that was your first thought.
It really was.
Okay.
But then so I was like, what is that? And then I was thinking about it and I was like, that is like really big and orange. It looked like a ball of fire. And I was like, okay. And then I kept watching it and it was like, it looked like it was like almost flickering like an airplane would. Mm-hmm. But I was like, okay, that's like not even in the flight pattern because we're so close to the airport. The airplanes don't fly right there. Uh-huh. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Kept watching it. And then like I decided, I was like, okay, that's an airplane. And then drove a little bit further, kept my eye on it. And I was like, what is that? It looked like an amber, red, orange like ball is the only way I know how to explain it. Mm-hmm. And so pulled the car over because I needed to not wreck and I had to stare at it. So we're standing there looking at it and I have another witness with me. Cameron was there. So he saw it and like we were discussing it. Like I wasn't being crazy and he's like, no, that thing does look really weird. So we get out of the car, we've pulled over now and we're staring at it and it's not a plane. It is not a drone. I promise you, it was like too big. And
did you take a picture?
No.
Okay.
We were literally just staring at it in awe, discussing it. And I was like, oh my God, what is that? Then it disappeared. Like it went black and was gone. And we probably had our eyes on it for like a minute, a good 60 seconds. And I was like, that thing it's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. And we watched it, like it flashed once before it went dark and then it went dark completely. And I was like, airplanes don't do that.
Listen, hear me out, okay? No. What if the reason you couldn't sleep last week was because the aliens actually were doing experiments on you?
The way that it disappeared, I felt like they were like, crap, they see us, turn the lights out.
Yeah, I think that last week that was your problem. I think they were doing experiments on you and you kept getting like plucked up and then like put back down and then you didn't remember or recall anything and they were leaving you and that was them telling you goodbye my good and faithful servant.
I have been listening to Down Bad a lot.
Yeah.
And did you really beat me up?
They did indeed. Yes.
But that is about the most exciting thing that I have.
Okay. I went to lots of Christmas parties this past weekend.
Oh, yeah. We went to one. I went to one.
You were at one of them. You were at my mom's. That was a fun time. And then I went to my work Christmas party and I won a spa package and circus tickets. So that's going to be a fun time.
Do you have to go on a set day or is it like any time you can go to the circus?
The circus is in January.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But the spa package, I just got to call and make my appointment whenever I want to. So I think I'm going to do it all around like the same time that I get my hair done and just have like be a brand new me for the new year, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's exciting.
So
before you got here, I was like watching Trisha's podcast that she just uploaded it today which today is the 19th. So she had like her whole family and like Oscar and like people that work for her like on the podcast. And it was like all Christmassy. And it's like, what was your favorite thing? Everybody shared their favorite thing of 2024, what they predict for 2025. And like, it was just a very like feel good, like grateful for the year episode.
Yeah.
So it really just got me feeling like positive. And I was like ready because I feel like this is really gonna work, and I feel like we've got good ideas and like some plans to like kind of up our quality, even like in the next few weeks. So I'm just like ready to see what all of that looks like. I'm ready to see like where we're at with this in like 3 months. I feel like it's gonna be the craziest growth.
I'm excited for it. This is like the most exciting thing that I'm looking forward to for 2025.
Me
like
too.
Doing this and like having fun with it and seeing it grow and whatever, because it's already grown like so much just from when we started like 6 weeks ago or something.
And my YouTube like accidentally, like automatically plays videos, and it played our first episode. And whenever I even just heard, like, we didn't even know, like, we were so uncomfortable. Like, obviously it was the first one, so we're going to be, but, like, I just feel like we know how to flow even better now. And, like, not that we don't have a flow about us anyway, but.
But, yeah, I get it. Because I had to watch our first episode to try and clip something for an episode. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is, like, weird looking at, because it doesn't feel the way that it feels now. I feel like.
No, I agree. But, yeah. Are you ready to jump into the
hot topics? What are we talking about today?
I'm just ready to be done talking about Brianna Chickenfry and Grace. Like, I really am.
I've seen so many people talk about it this week, and there's been more to come out, so obviously we're gonna talk about it. But I feel like I'm like beating a dead horse.
I know.
If we have the same opinion as all the 500 other people who are talking about it, you know? Thankfully, I feel like we have a little bit of a different take. I do have a few more thoughts that have shifted a little bit this week, but still, I don't think I have this exact same opinion as the 500 other people.
I agree. And even whenever, we're like watching like 8 different podcasts talk about the same topic, and it's like, oh my God, like it's so much of the same thing like over and over again. But even just like taking everybody else's opinion out of it, and like just having watched the podcast that Bree put up on BFFs where she was talking about Grace, even like looking back at that a week later in hindsight with like more time and more like time to sit with it, I feel like it sits differently with me at this point than it did last week. But the big like updates to the scenario from last week is Grace has quit Barstool.
I saw that.
She released a statement on her Instagram story, and she said, I wanted you guys to hear from me first that this is my last day at Barstool. I'm so grateful to everyone at the company and to Dave for taking a chance on me. I'm just as surprised as you are. There are no typos in the statement.
So that I'm just as surprised as you are insinuates to me that she was fired.
No, I do not think that she was fired. I think that she was like, Bree thinks that she gave me everything, so I'm going to not have anything that she claims to have given me, because Bree really did like tell her side of the story publicly, and their whole argument was that none of it should have ever been public. And I feel like, to me, I interpreted it as she wants to go on there and take credit for my career and say that she gave me Barstool. Don't need them.
We're about to get podcast Grace's version.
Which I was excited to hear like Grace's own podcast, because I do think she's funny. And there were a lot of Plan Brie episodes where Brie wouldn't even be there. It would just be Grace sometimes. And I still listen to them. So I feel like it'll be good. I also feel like she could just do better with a fresh start with another company. Which, do you know the news?
No. What's the news?
Okay. So I'm going to go in order.
Okay.
I'm going to go in order just so
we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. It's not far down, but Grace has not addressed anything that Bree said, but Dave did come out, because there's all this speculation that Dave is like sticking up for Bree, and more than he would stick up for anyone else. And I don't think that he is favoring her because they're close in some way, but I don't think it's weird. People are comparing.
They're saying that he's in love with her because she looks like his
ex-wife. It's so dumb. But I've never gotten that vibe from their relationship, and the people like Trisha, which we'll get to, who was like, just date already. Like, it's rude.
Yeah. I think to the people saying that he like defends her so hard and stuff, they are closer than the other employees that he has because of the fact I feel like the other podcast that he has, he's not a co-host on it with said people, so he's not getting to know them personally every single week the way that he is on BFFs with Bree.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's also like, he said it in another podcast, but the amount of hate, like, despite whether you think Bree did do anything wrong, even before all this stuff came out, that her hate train really never made any sense. And I don't think it was ever fair. It was just like a lot of speculation. It was Grace being silent, which was making the speculation get even worse. And it was like never addressed, except by Bree. And so Bree trying to defend herself is never going to come across as honest or authentic. It's always going to come across as like trying to just make yourself look better. So I don't think there's any win. But this was Dave's response to
Grace.
Yeah, this feels old because I've watched 30 videos, but this is since our last podcast episode came out.
Okay.
Real quick video. I saw the Grace O'Malley news. I can tell you, this is why I hate all you motherfuckers. Such stupid fucking gossip accounts. My girl here, my angel of my life, Miss Peaches, major surgery, had a nipple removed, has another surgery on the side, under anesthesia. I've been just trying, oh, my baby angel. And I got you motherfuckers out there being like, oh, Dave fired Grace. I didn't fucking fire Grace. Open your ears, you fucking dummies, for the 100th time. I like Grace. Nobody could fucking get in the middle of Grace and Bree, but Grace quit. And she was under contract another year. Grace is gonna do what Grace is gonna do. I wish her nothing but the best. I've never not liked Grace. I've always liked Grace. So all you people up my ass right now, you think you know everything, you know fucking nothing. Let me just tend to my girl, Miss Peaches, who needs me, all right? And go back to your fucking miserable lives and don't pit these two against each other and root for both of them. I hope Grace makes $1 billion. I don't fucking care. I'm rich as fuck, have 1 million houses. I only care about getting this girl healthy. And I hope Grace has great success.
He's like, I don't care. I have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Tons of houses. Okay.
He posted in another video. I think this is the really long one.
All right, walk and talk, emergency walk and talk. Everybody knows Grace quit yesterday. I'm still getting DMs from people and be like, Dave, you fucking fired her. You're a scumbag for picking sides. People saying that her message was subliminal, like she was really forced out. People are fucking nuts. People posting pictures of my ex-fucking wife online, being like, she looks like Bree, so Dave's in love with Bree. It's fucking crazy. So you know what I'm going to do on this walk and talk? I'm going to tell a story from my perspective from day one and tell you how we landed here and why all you fucking morons who are blaming me or putting Barstool in the middle of this need to have your fucking tiny little brain examined, because nobody could have figured this situation out when two best friends of 20 years get in a fight and fucking hate each other's asses like poison, and we're in the fucking middle. So let's rewind. Obviously, Zach Bryan shit starts all this thing. Everyone knows that. And Zach's a dick to Grace, and Bree's getting like just fucked up by Zach. Terrible. They start hating each other. So October, Bree calls me, texts me, I can't remember what it is, and she's like, Plan Bree, I want to end it. Like, me and O'Malley, we just don't get along anymore. I can't do this with her. And I'm like, all right, fine. You've been through a lot. No big deal. Give you your space. Figure out what you want to do next. Rearrange all the money in the ads there to get it other places. Pain in the ass, whatever. Give them space. Right about that time, I text O'Malley. I'm like, O'Malley, her Plan Bree is ending. I just want to let you know, just because I talk to Bree all the time because I'm on BFS with her and I'm friends with her, clearly doesn't mean like I don't like you and we don't support you. Like, we're here for you, whatever you need. I just want to let you know, like, we have your back. So I want you to know that. She was super appreciative. She's like, thanks. That means a lot. By the way, congrats on your new pup. I think it's right around when I got Pete the Beagle. So there's that. Time passes. I don't hear much from Grace. And she's off doing her comedy thing. She's doing comedy shows, the Whitney Cummings, which, by the way, she doesn't even tell us she's doing it. But again, we're giving her space. Like, figure it out. I know fucking both Bree and Grace's life's turned upside down. So we're really hands off. Grace calls me, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I wasn't sure whether she was going to quit, to be honest. I wasn't sure what she was going to do, but she's like, I've had time to think about it. Sorry, I've been MIA. I want to stay with Barstool. I want to start my own podcast and stay with you guys. I'm psyched. I'm like, whatever you need, Grace. I'm glad to hear that. You can hire whatever you need, your own team, whatever it is. We're 100% behind you. Excited you're going to be here to fulfill the contract. So I'm happy. And then it kind of quiets down. And at this point, Brie is kind of becoming an icon because she turned down the $12 million, which still, I feel like people are forgetting, is such a baller move. But she turns down $12 million to tell her story. And for the first time in about a year, people are being nice to Brie online. So this is when everything just went fucking sideways and blew up, and I wish it didn't happen. But I guess a fan... Well, Spotify Wrapped had planned Brie as like the breakout podcast of the year, which is crazy in its own right. It's been around for a while, and the thing ended at the end of the year. But they have it as their breakout podcast of the year. A fan tags Brie or something, be like, I love it. Brie writes back with little heart symbols, being like, we're retooling Plan Brie. O'Malley reacts to this with like a 3-page Instagram story, being like, I can't believe that Brie said that. I'm blindsided. We were supposed to make a video together announcing the end of Plan Brie. This is the only thing where I got mad at Grace, because I read that. I'm like, well, you just threw a fucking grenade and then ran away. Like, I knew reading that people are going to be mad at Brie, and I didn't get it, because it's like, all right, for months we've known Plan Brie is dead over. We've known that Grace is starting her totally own thing. Plan Brie was Brie's podcast and thing since college. She's retooling it. Like, I don't know, everyone in the company for months knew it was dead in the Grace Brie version. So I don't see what the huge deal was. And from my perspective, that's the only time me and Grace ever like disagreed. I called Grace. I told her exactly how I felt. I'm like, I think that was dog shit that you posted that. Like, we're past this, and it sucks. It's like you just made life harder for everybody. You could have just handled that privately. And I was in Dave boss mode right then. I'm like, that's bullshit. Hung up the phone, and then I texted her being like, listen, Grace, we fucking want you to be here. I want you to be successful here. Let's just move past this other shit, and like, you're gonna be a big star here. And especially, like, Grace really doesn't like to talk about like the private, the gossip. She's very like, you don't see many stories talking about Brie at all. It's like about her comedy, and that's great. So she kind of throws this grenade. And then when we try to get her on BFF to talk about, not to ambush her, I'm like, you can't have final cut. Brie doesn't have to be on. I just want this thing to go away, because the second she did that post, it was a 180 on the internet, and people are fucking savaging Brie again. And it's not about money for me. When I took Barstool back, people were like, oh, Dave's worried about Brie moneymaker. I don't give a fuck. I've said to both of them at one point, if I could stick you both in a cannon and shoot you to the moon, I would. When I got Barstool back, I just want people to wake up, enjoy their job. I don't want this headache being in between two lifelong fucking friends. And I knew that 3-page story was just going to turn everyone against Brie again, and it did. O'Malley swears up and down, which I guess I believe. It's like, I didn't intend it for that. But that starts a war. So we try to get Grace to come on BFFs too. So it's two sides, but it's just Brie. And Brie's pissed, and in my mind, rightfully so. But it comes across in the internet's mind as like a bully, this, that, and it just, Brie doesn't help her situation, because she's responding to fans in the middle of this, being like, well, you don't know the side of the story, and Grace has fucked me over, and on it goes, and they're just driving a stake between each other. It's 100% on the internet, people behind Grace, and 100% people savaging Brie. Girl just turned down fucking $12 million. And yes, if you're noticing, I like Brie. I've done a podcast with her for fucking 4 years. I'm friends with her, and I defend my friends, so I think it's bullshit. Doesn't mean I don't like O'Malley. I like O'Malley. But it's like, O'Malley doesn't need defense right now. The entire internet's on her fucking side, and the entire internet's going for Brie's throat. So, you know, fast forward, we do the BFFs. Everyone's killing Brie. I'm only defending her supposedly because I want to fuck her, which is crazy. And then O'Malley calls me yesterday. We talked. She's like, I think I got to leave Barstool. It's too toxic. I can't be in the same like work environment as Brie. I get it. Brie had hinted at the same thing. She's like, I don't know if I can do this at Barstool. And again, if they both want to leave, God bless. Like, I'm not trying to stop anything. I want them both to be happy. I want people to stop picking fucking sides. So O'Malley has a 1.5 years on her contract. I could have been a prick, be like, you can't leave. No. Best of luck, O'Malley. And I'm talking to her. I'm like, are you going to tell Brie that you quit? She's like, nope. Like, we don't talk at all. And I even said, like, you know, I know you guys don't like each other, O'Malley, but she's getting so much fucking hate. Like, you could probably ease the situation. Again, come on BFF, final cut. Let's just, like, let you guys go your separate ways. Couldn't get it done. But again, O'Malley, I think is going to be a huge fucking success. She's killing it with her comedy. I honestly wish her nothing but the best. I totally get both sides. If I was a lawyer and you said, Dave, you have to go to court and you're going to argue for Brie or for O'Malley, I think I can make a compelling case for each of them why they're in the right. I honestly do. I get both sides. I've said that from day one. But I don't know what people want Barstool to do. You have two friends, 20 years, both employees, who ended up fucking hating each other. So it sucks. It's probably for the best that O'Malley goes on her way, and who knows with Brie. But, I mean, I don't know why the internet all hates one person versus the other. To me, like, let them both fucking live their lives and be happy.
So I think he's overall right. I think a lot of this, like, beef is worse just because the internet is involved and everyone's putting their opinion in.
Yeah, like, honestly, this is not anywhere near, like, we think it's bad because they're public figures. You know what I mean? This is not anything, like, that I haven't seen real people, like, that are in life, in, like, high school and in college and all the things, like, I haven't seen happen before. You know what I mean? It's no more dramatic than that. We just think that it is because they're public figures on this high platform.
Yeah. And so what I like about Grace is this TikTok is super short, but this is her addressing the planned Brie breakup in her stand-up comedy.
Sorry if I'm not myself tonight. I'm going through a divorce. It's a very common type of divorce with just a few minor differences. For example, it's not a marriage. It was a 15-year friendship. She's not keeping the house. She's keeping the podcast. And when it came to the kids, we took a very progressive approach. Instead of doing shared custody, we're letting the kids decide who they want to go with. I'm handling this the same way I think my father would if my parents could afford a divorce. I'm just kind of bottling my emotions and picking up the bottle. So, let's go, boys.
I thought that was a good response.
Yeah, it's funny.
I thought it was her. Mm-hmm. It went with her brand of being a comedian and being funny. She's still talking about it, but she's not anyway publicly talking crap about Brie, even if she's not defending anything. She's I thought it was a really classy way to go about it.
Even the way that she delivered it, I feel like it gives room for her to say that she didn't even talk badly about her by saying it that way. She literally just did no wrong with the way that she addressed it. So I thought it was honestly the perfect response.
Yeah, me too.
So someone commented on our last episode and they asked us to watch the Do We Know Them podcast. And
Which I love Do We Know Them.
Yeah.
I watch them religiously. So
I like their podcast. I don't watch it a lot because I watch so many other ones.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's a little bit redundant whenever they talk about something like this. It's interesting to hear their take. Mm-hmm. But they had the best video on this scenario that I've seen because they went back and played old clips to show the chemistry of Brie and Grace on the podcast, and they really showed more of Brianna's controversies in the past. They just did a lot more work than all the other podcasts are doing to talk about it. And I thought that they did it kind of better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. So also while listening to their podcast, they're the ones that kind of gave me I don't know, they gave me a different take on it and made me reconsider the way that I feel, because I think the biggest thing is that BFFs has been set up for them to get themselves in trouble, because their whole concept is that they will talk about anything, even if it's involving them, even if it's something that probably wouldn't be in your best interest to discuss publicly. They put it all out there. Even in the very beginning of BFFs, Josh Richards was dating Nessa Barrett, and Nessa Barrett left him for his best friend. Mm-hmm. And it was all over the internet, and he had to discuss it. And so that was the very beginning, and that was the precedent of what they set for people to expect out of them. So then Brie starts dating an A-list celebrity like Zach Bryan, and he's very problematic, and there's constantly this tension on the show because you can tell things are going on with them. The internet's catching on to him unfollowing her friends and stuff like that on Instagram, and she can't talk about it because she's in a relationship with him. So it set her up to fail in that way. And it also just seemed like she was avoiding things, just like we have had an issue with Trisha, not talking about her things. It's it makes people start to speculate what
they're hiding or not sharing, I guess. What's so bad that they're not sharing if they've shared all this other stuff.
Right. So I think that set Brie up to where this Grace situation is happening. If she doesn't discuss it, the internet is going to drag her anyway.
Mm-hmm. And if she doesn't discuss it, the internet's going to run with their own theories and fuel their own fire and make up whatever they want, versus if she talks about it, at least she has a chance to say what her truth is.
Right. Right. And I feel like people were starting to turn on Brie, so she felt like she needed to just put out there her side of the story, which her side of the story is going to make her look good no matter what. Mm-hmm. No one's going to tell their version of the story where they look bad.
And say, listen, I did this horrible thing to them, and I was a horrible friend, and I still am horrible, and she left me, but I'm horrible, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah. You know? But there is also room in that where she could have taken some accountability for messaging the fans, because she literally didn't mention that at all.
Yeah.
There was one other thing that no one else has talked about that I know about, because I'm a freak and I pay too much attention to stuff. Mm-hmm. So Brie posted, and I saw this in the Do We Know Them, and it reminded me of the other thing that I had seen in the past. She posted that she missed yapping, and she wanted to bring back her podcast to yap. And it was during the time. So Bree posted that story. Bree also
posted. This was before Grace made any.
Yes,
post.
before. This is why Grace made the statements.
Yeah.
From what I would assume. And then she also posted that they were planning on bringing back some form of Plan Bree.
And which she then tried to say was she was trying to get other talent for.
She was trying to find a new host for Plan Bree. It's like,
yeah.
It's
Plan Bree.
And so here's what no one is remembering, and maybe Bree deleted it, because Bree does these long form TikTok videos where she's like nightly FaceTime with Bree. And I think it was on one of those because it was a longer video that I was watching, and she was discussing starting this therapy where they, I don't know, do something with your brain, like they connect something. I don't even know what it is, but she was going to start this therapy, and she was actually going to have, no one's talked about this, and I feel like it's the biggest, like, da-da-da. She said she was going to have the therapist on Plan Bree. In one of Bree's like longer TikTok videos, she said her own words, and she might have deleted it because I haven't seen anybody clipping it or anything. She said that she was going to have this therapist that she was about to start seeing that helps people come out of abusive relationships. She said that she was going to have her as a guest on the podcast. So my vibe from that was, because I had seen her story post that she was like talking about bringing back some version of it or whatever. I thought she was just going to kind of change the direction, because her and Grace were funny together. Like, it was always like a bit like talking about their life and their crazy nights in New York City. And like, Bree is lying about the host thing. But my thing is, she doesn't have to, because it was her podcast. Like,
yeah,
I just think it makes her look a lot worse that she's doing that, because it's like, it's just unnecessary. It was literally Plan Bree.
Yeah. You saying that she doesn't have to because it was her podcast reminded me of something that they said on Do We Know Them that I wanted to like us to talk about. It was whenever they were saying about how Bree is trying to like bring up how she basically gave Grace, you know, her career by bringing her on to the Plan Bree like podcast and stuff. Their take on it was that she was saying, you know, she built Plan Bree from the ground up and brought Grace in, but that's not necessarily the case, because it's more entertaining to have a 2-person podcast than a 1-person podcast.
And there were a lot of episodes where Bree couldn't do it, so Grace would step in and have her own solo episode.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know, like, your thoughts on that, like, because of the way Bree talks about it, being like I brought Grace in, and it's like, but underneath was it kind of a little bit calculated and like selfish on her end to make the podcast better by having Grace there, you know?
I feel like Bree and Grace are those friends that like whenever you're with them and they're together, they are like a dynamic duo to where like they're extra entertaining. They're like funnier together than they are alone. I feel like it's exactly that. Like
basically where Bree needed Grace,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like what they were saying is that like Bree needed Grace for the Plan Bree podcast, but now she's trying to frame it like she didn't need Grace. She was just trying to help her out, essentially.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting take, and I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Before.
But I think it was both sides. Like, I think that Bree needed Grace on the podcast to like help it grow and turn into something bigger than what it was. But I also think that Grace needed a friend that was willing to like deal with her like during her depressive episodes too, like, and help get her out and like get her into the world that she really wanted to be in, because Bree really did like open, like, not that Bree should be like taking credit during their fallout for all of Grace's success, because Grace is naturally funny like on her own, but she did get Grace into the rooms to get to those open doors. So it's like there's both sides of it. Like, it just sucks that Bree is bringing it up as like,
yeah,
I did this for you.
Yeah, she shouldn't be bringing it up and like kind of, it's almost like she's trying to paint it like she's not, but she is like throwing it in Grace's face, you know? But in reality, when you look at it from a non-biased standpoint, like from someone like us who's just looking, I think they both needed each other and they both helped each other like in life, like with things. They both needed each other. So yeah.
But I also think that there may be like, and this is just a vibe that I get from looking at the whole scenario, like as like from like a broader perspective. Like, I kind of feel like Grace, I don't know why, but the internet like isn't even allowing any room for there to have been mistreatment from Grace towards Bree, like during their her relationship with Zach. And not that Grace should have had to stick around and deal with everything. Like, I understand taking a step back, but there could be an element to where, like, Grace abandoned Bree in another kind of a way rather than her just, like, moving out with a boyfriend and stuff. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there could just be more to that situation that, like, Bree didn't talk about, because it might be the more too personal stuff. Like, and it might show Grace in a negative light, and Bree might be holding back that information because they were best friends. And I don't see Bree going on that podcast and doing all of that and saying all of that without there being more hurt from her than just a 3-slide story post.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the internet is speculating the worst things about Bree possible, but they won't speculate that Grace might not be that nice to Bree behind closed doors. And if you watch their dynamic, like, their whole, like, bit with their thing was that, like, they kind of, like, go at each other. And they're both, like, Boston girls, and they have, like, that just not afraid to say anything attitude. I made, like, a note of, like, where I think everyone is wrong after I watched Do We Know Them, just so I would, like, have it all fresh in my mind. So these are kind of some thoughts that I had just on the whole scenario. Bree shouldn't have posted on her story that they were working on bringing some version of the podcast back, and then told her side of the story and, like, never acknowledged what she was truly planning to do. She also sent those messages to viewers talking poorly about Grace, which, you're a public figure, like, people are going to screenshot that. Like the Do We Know Them people said, like, it is basically posting it by doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that Grace should have posted the story saying that she was blindsided if she genuinely cared about Bree's feelings. Like, but she might not. So she might not owe Bree anything. But I know that she knows and, like, saw where the internet was, like, tearing Bree down. So, like, I know that she was smart enough to know what the public's reaction to that was going to be and know that it wouldn't be a positive one.
What were your thoughts? What are your thoughts with everybody comparing Bree to Zach? Because they were doing that on Do We Know Them as well.
Okay, where I think Do We Know Them missed something is whenever Bree said that she said, okay, this is a lot of, like, she said and then he said and she. So Bree said on the BFFs podcast that Grace did to Bree exactly what Zach did. And she wasn't talking about the mental abuse. She was talking about posting a story on Instagram out of nowhere and exposing the whole scenario whenever no one knew what was going on.
Okay, because I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
I was thinking their take on it.
Yeah, the Do We Know Them take was like, how can you say that after you just said that the internet was saying you were treating Grace that you were treating Grace like the same way that Zach treated you, and that's not what Bree was saying. But the whole Brianna and Zach fallout was from Zach posting a story saying that they weren't together anymore. And then everyone was like, and they hadn't made the breakup public. And Grace did do the exact same thing in her own way. It wasn't as...
Which, in this case, though, it was fueled by Bree from posting initially she was working on something and that she missed yapping on the podcast and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But I didn't think of that take. I only saw it how Do We Know Them saw it.
Yeah, and I think they probably just forgot about that whole story situation, because Zach posting that story about the breakup is why, like, Bree did that whole crying on her bathroom floor video. Like, that was the whole point of it, because she was like, we weren't going to tell anyone. And now everyone's texting me asking me if you're okay. And now he's on Raya and I have no idea what's going on. So I think that was, like, what she meant. But Bree did have to discuss the situation on BFFs, because that is, like, the whole point of their podcast is just outing everything. But I think it's a big part of why Dave is leaving, and they're going to restructure what BFFs is. They've said that, like, with Josh and Bree doing something completely different, because I think they're starting to see how they all got so big and then, like, they got famous, and it's like you start seeing the issue with the concept of your podcast.
Yeah, when you have to talk about yourself and the drama that's happening involving you.
So they kind of have just put themselves in, like, a horrible position, but I think overall, like, Brie didn't mention her own wrongdoings, but the internet also hasn't treated her kindly, so I can't blame her for not trying to paint a picture that she isn't a bad guy. When Grace's silence could almost be perceived as worse because it leaves room for the internet and TikTok to have this, like, psychotic speculation, and it's just...
Which they were saying on Do We Know Them, that about Grace not saying anything, like, when they still had Plan Brie and everything, they were saying, like, what if, you know, her saying anything might not have done anything. And another take was that Grace probably felt validated by the comments that were happening because she felt that way, and so she didn't want to take away her validation.
Yeah.
So that's, like, also in this, like, Grace not saying anything now is probably because everyone's kind of on her side, so why would she, you know?
And she's trying to come up as an influencer and a comedian, so this does nothing but help her.
Yeah, and if she's, like, being liked right now, she's not going to come out and take away that hype, like how you said when you're trying to come up. So,
But one thought that I go back to is that Brie did say in BFFs that, like, months ago, she had to, like, reach out to Grace and was like, I think I need to, like, walk away from our friendship because this just isn't right. And that's why I just think there's more to this than, like, we know from Grace's, like, doings that we're just unaware of, and we probably aren't going to know because I don't think Brie's going to try to come on the internet and, like, drag her anymore.
No, I think she's done with that after seeing everything backfire on her.
Yeah, and all the stuff, like, about Dave, like, I feel like he had his heart in the right place with all of it. I think, like, he is Grace's boss, but he is also a personality on a gossip podcast, which is why I think he's like, I'm not doing this anymore, because if the gossip is about your employees, like, that does nothing but put you in a horrible scenario to be in.
Yeah.
But he did give her the opportunity to share her side, and she did choose not to. So that's...
But she is going to share her side on another podcast.
Oh, I haven't gotten to that headline yet. Oh, I can't wait to tell you.
Okay.
Don't read the notes right under that.
Okay.
Don't read the notes right under that. So I wrote this out whenever I saw it because I was, like, kind of salty. I was like, Little Miss doesn't speak about anything. It's going on, like, the Ultimate Expose podcast. Well, I guess if you didn't know, the news broke a few hours ago. She just got signed to Alex Cooper's network, Unwell.
Oh, okay. This whole time, why did I think that Call Her Daddy at some point was a Barstool?
It was.
Okay.
So Dave found Alex.
Wasn't she with her other friend?
Yeah. So he found her, and then they had the podcast together on Barstool. But then I think maybe Alex stayed at Barstool a little bit longer after that girl left, but then she left Barstool and the podcast, like, got even bigger. So she now has Alex Earl, Harry Jowsey, and now Grace is, like, the fourth person on Unwell. And Call Her Daddy, like, Alex, she posted that, and I thought she was insinuating that Grace was going to be a guest, which would have been, like, the ultimate, oh my God.
Yeah.
But if you've watched Call Her Daddy's podcast in the last, like, year or two, she doesn't really ask very hard-hitting questions. Like, she tends to, like, grab guests whenever they're, like, the hot topic of conversation, and then they don't and you're going to click on it because you think they're going to discuss, like, what's going on, and they end up not. Like, one example, whenever Speak Now, Taylor's version, was about to drop, she had John Mayer on. And I was like, oh my God, because, like, she's supposed to ask all these personal and intimate questions. Like, you would think she would have mentioned anything about it, and it was the most boring podcast episode.
I've noticed that she always does that and asks, like, really things geared towards that celebrity and, like, in favor of them. And doesn't ask the things that the fans actually want to know. Yeah,
and I feel like because, like, Grace isn't, like, she's said so many times that she just doesn't want to discuss any of this publicly. Like, I would bet you, like, everything except for maybe one question would be about Grace promoting her comedy tour. And then, like, she'd have one question about Brie, and she would probably answer in the most, like, vaguely media trained way just to, like, push it if she did go on the podcast, which she might because she's joining the network. But I'm super interested to see what they are going to do together.
Yeah. That is interesting just because I didn't realize till just now, till we've talked about it, that she was signed to the network. I thought she was just going on Call Her Daddy. So.
Yeah, they just announced it, like, in the last few hours.
Okay.
I just now updated it before you got here. But I was thinking about, like, what I think Brie should do I feel like it doesn't matter what Brie is going to post or do. I feel like she's in a bad situation where like the public's not going to let her like live any of this down unless she addresses it. And even if she addresses it, like they don't have to accept her. Like the public opinion is just so silly. But I kind of feel like she should take a step back, get off of social media for just a week or two. Like she's so consistently posting, and I feel like she's already told about 85% of her story. The parts that she's left out are the parts that make her look bad. She needs to do like a sit down and just be honest and tell everything and be like, I shouldn't have done that, but I was mad. That's my best friend. Like, I don't think any of it like isn't understandable.
I think she would get a lot better of a reaction if she did take accountability.
Yeah,
like that's
just
basically
own
people's issue with it for the most part.
Yeah, and I would also, if I were talking to her, I would just like advise like before she puts out a public statement, like sharing all of this, like if she even decides to do this, she should reach out to Grace and probably apologize for like the things that she did say on the podcast. And maybe even like send what you're going to post to Grace to give her a heads up and let her know what's coming if you really care about her. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the moment that BFF's podcast came out, I think that might have like tarnished a big opportunity for them to like ever be like friends again, because I really don't know that I could.
What would you do like in a situation like that? Like,
I'm trying to think if me and you got really famous from this.
Yeah.
And then like we parted ways, and then like I didn't want to talk about it publicly and you went on a podcast and I didn't want to go on the podcast to discuss it. But I was having success and other things. Like, I mean, I guess I would just be doing exactly what Grace is doing, where like she's leaning into her like comedic craft more and like using this to fuel that fire. And like, like there might be a clip out of her addressing it, but it's a clip of her doing stand-up comedy, which is what she wants to get famous for. So like, I really think Grace is like handling it as best as she could.
But I do think Grace is like a real like winner. Like I really respect how gracefully she's been handling this.
I have a hard time with the whole like, okay, I also think about it. Say I was Grace in the situation, you were Brie, and you were just coming out of like a really bad relationship and like our friendship like fell apart in the middle of it. There's no part of me, especially as public as that was, there's no part of me that even if you did me wrong in some way, wouldn't have went to you to talk. That's what I don't understand. I'm like, I get that Grace might have been mad at her, but like, give her some grace. Like, I don't know. Like, I just can't imagine doing that.
That whole thing is a lot more nuanced to the conversation for sure. Because I like if I was in a really bad like abusive relationship and like came out of it, like I just feel like,
especially if I witnessed how bad it was.
And it's like, we might have gotten in an argument or something while I was in that relationship, but when I'm out of it and I'm back thinking clearly and I'm not there anymore, like we can talk, and I think that we could fix it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. And
especially a 15-year relationship, like 15-year friendship.
And you like blew up together. Like that is the whole, like, I'm just like,
what? There's way more that we don't know, because what is so bad that could make you not be friends with your friend of that long anymore?
That's also why I go back to like, I think that there's more to how Grace treated Brie that we don't know about, like other than like the stories and the stuff like that. Like I just, that's the only thing that I can make it make sense, is that Brie was like, I don't want to be her friend anymore. Like, even though, like, I don't know. I just think there's just more to it. I know that there is, and we'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know, because I'm sure they're done talking about it online.
God, we hope so. And then Trisha also addressed the Brie and Grace breakup in her podcast. Did you listen to her take on it?
No. Okay. I didn't have time this week between all the other podcasts that I consume.
Okay. It's okay. Well, Trisha said basically just like, oh, she's such a mean girl, talking about Brie.
She says that about every girl that she doesn't like or doesn't think has a good take on something.
Yeah, I don't really like the whole mean girl phrase, because I don't feel like anyone would call a guy that for doing
literally they don't
anything close to what is happening.
They don't. There's like Jeff Wittick's podcast.
He is the same
Yeah.
way. Like,
he's the epitome of mean girl, but he's a man, so nobody cares.
Yes. So I just I don't like that. I also didn't like her making the comments about oh, just date already, talking about Dave and Bree, because if it were Oscar who were being dragged by the internet for something that she didn't agree with, she would be doing the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. So I just you get really close on a podcast, you build a relationship with someone, and to see the public tearing them down for something that you probably know more to the story than the public does, even it's just not. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I didn't love her reactions.
People aren't able to take a step back and really think about things with the full picture. They only have their tunnel vision.
And Trisha does admit that she's a misogynist sometimes.
Yeah.
It comes out, and I think that might be happening a little bit.
Yeah.
And maybe just look inward.
Mean girl energy.
And then Trisha, I feel like it's because of us.
She definitely saw this. Actually, Oscar probably saw it because, Trisha doesn't watch anything.
But Trisha finally addressed the Jeffree Star issue.
Yes.
And I put a TikTok in there of the summary of it if you want to watch it.
Okay.
Literally all the comments are always where is the Jeffree episode? It's really not that deep, not that serious. I've actually talked to Jeffree. Jeffree's if you don't want to post the video, it was a while ago or whatever. And he's if you don't want to post it, I understand. Lots of reasons went into this. What I realized doing the podcast is obviously our beef or whatever is so minor compared to things we talked about Dramageddon, and to us it was just a fun little key. To me it was so almost silly. It was because we're not involved with it. I was God, this is actually so silly. There is a lot of darkness to it before even the Jeffree of it all got involved. But then Jeffree was here, and I realized it's not a cute key for him or other people involved. There's a lot of I won't even say bad feelings. I think there's just a lot of unresolved feelings between everybody. So much I don't want to say miscommunication, but there's just a lot happening there. So then after sitting on it for a while, I felt kind of off on the video because again, I don't want to be the Dave and Bree without Grace. You know what I mean? It's there's so many parts to the story, and I was not involved in it at all. I don't know any of these people involved. So I'm let me just not have this where it's so many people are hurt by it. I've heard Tati's side, James has been quiet, Jeffree's side, and it's just all very murky and sad, and everything's really sad, and kind of none of it really ends well for anyone. So
it's really not anything super dramatic, but we got what we wanted. We got our answer. We got that she addressed it finally.
Yeah.
Basically just that it wasn't hee hee ha ha funny Dramageddon talking about it for the 500 millionth time. She says that it was involving people that she can't hear their side of the story from, and she doesn't want to air that out and whatever. But knowing Trisha, it's really more of a selfish reason that she saw how bad it did on Canceled.
Yeah,
and
I
she
think
was
so
oh.
too. I think so too. I don't, because she was planning to release it until Canceled came out, even though she knew. But no, I feel like she saw what the reaction was whenever the Canceled podcast came out, and then she changed her mind.
Yeah. Because
I think our take from the beginning was kind of more why would you even ask him to come on to the podcast after everything that's happened?
Literally. After... It just is wild that anybody's platforming Jeffree Star in 2024.
I was thinking about it, and what are the people that do TikTok lives going to do if TikTok isn't there anymore?
They're SOL, dude. They're you're done. He's not going to be able to panhandle him and Jason Nash. They're going to move to it's going to be the new thing. To be on the side of the road.
Jason Nash is on TikTok 24 hours a day. I
feel
every time I open it up, it says that he's live. And I'm
I'm bro, get a job. Quit asking for scorpions. At least Jeffree Star supposedly makes millions.
I know.
Jason Nash is trying to freaking eat off of these.
Okay. So, anything else that you wanted to touch on with the Jeffree, Trisha? Can we put it to bed? Leave it in this year?
I think we can put it in its coffin.
Yeah.
Dig a hole. Dig a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
With 6 feet under, we can put it there. Put the...
I don't know.
Put the dirt back over, pat it down.
That's right, Jill.
Let it rest.
Okay.
A rip.
Yeah. Okay, so someone that I don't consume their content, but Shannon,
We had her featured on like our second or third episode, I think.
yeah, I think it was ended up being our third episode that she was in. She gave us this suggestion, and then it started popping up on my feed after she like messaged us about it. So Matilda Djerf, I did a little bit of research on her. She's a 27-year-old Swedish influencer and fashion designer.
She's from Sweden.
Yeah,
Me and
she's
my
so
accents.
She started a clothing brand called Djerf Avenue. It is like a very high-end minimalist clothing brand known for inclusivity and sustainability.
Okay.
The brand has been doing really good after only being in business for 4 years. She even like launched a collab with Hailey Bieber. But her employees have released an article in the Swedish newspaper calling her a mean girl, a nightmare of a boss. Again, the mean girl term, of course.
And like, if she's a woman and she's harsh, then she's gonna be a horrible, mean boss. But
Yeah,
like, if a
and
man was that way,
I feel like she's done some things that are kind of like not looking too good, but Dave Portnoy handles his business in a very similar manner.
yeah,
And he doesn't get called a mean girl.
yeah.
So, I mean, people do judge him for the way that he like runs his company, but
But it's not where it's like making headlines just from him being mean.
yeah, I feel
Like-
like that's just something to think about. But she is being ripped apart for, and I really want your thought on this because I have my opinions, but she's being ripped apart because she has a private toilet at the company, and she is the only one allowed to use it, and she has like a select few employees that she's closer to that she'll let them use it. Well, there was a sign that said, "Please don't use." It fell off. Someone used it, and she made them scrub the toilet after they used it.
Oh. That's like iconic. That's funny.
I thought
I would like, okay, I would never do that because I would just be like too, I don't know, too scared to like make someone scrub the toilet like that. But I can understand having your private toilet.
Me too.
Like, I really
totally like would love that kind of money.
Because I just think about, like, when I go to public restrooms, I just think about everybody's other little booty cheeks touching the toilet, and I'd be lining it.
It's your company, have your own toilet.
Yeah, you can have your own toilet, and like, if you like, I would let you use my toilet.
Yeah,
you know,
but
like Sally Lou Who over here she ain't using my toilet.
I think where she's getting the negativity is that she's made them clean a toilet that they're not even allowed to use, and it's like, well, they did use it.
Yeah, they did. So, so I would never have the balls to ask someone like, you weren't allowed to use that and you did, scrub it, please. Like, I would never be able to do that. But I probably would like either scrub it myself or get someone else to if I was. People are germophobic. What if she's germophobic?
That was kind of my thought, is she could have like a phobia of something of some kind that made her do that. Do I think it was polite that she asked the person to scrub the toilet because they used hers?
Why do I love it? Why do I love it? It's like, this is a very hot take, I feel, but I kind of am here for it and living.
But I want to know what the context of the scrubbing was. Like,
yeah, like, was it with a toothbrush? Like, did we get that detailed into it?
Were they on their hands and knees, like toothbrush cleaning it, or was it with like?
Did she give them gloves?
Was there a wand on the brush? Because that's not that big of a deal.
What was the cleaner like? Was it that blue kind that you? And she said you have to let it sit for 5 minutes. Like, were there detailed instructions?
Like, I do wonder. I just want to know the context of the cleaning brush. So if you could let us know what they used to clean the toilet, then we'll be the judge.
Yes,
there is a different context. But so this is where it gets bad. She had because her whole thing is inclusivity. So they had a plus size model. And after they got the photos back from the shoot, she said that the model looked too fat in the clothes.
Oh.
I'm not saying that's okay to say about someone, and like her whole thing is inclusivity, but what if what she meant was those clothes look too small on her, which isn't a good representation of the brand. I'm just wondering if that sentence was taken out of context to say, not that too fat is the way to describe that, but do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, like maybe she meant it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, she could have.
But
I'm not sure that she did, but like she could have.
Yeah, because her whole thing, like one of the reasons that she started the company was like she modeled for a brand and they edited her like 3 sizes smaller, and she's like not large, like she's a really small girl. But it's like she started it because she just didn't like that. She wanted everybody to feel included and like feel like a normal, like real person.
And so she has like this was like plus size clothes, and
I guess so. But my thought is I would wonder if she meant it in a way that it didn't fit her well. Like it just looked too small for her, because if you're representing the clothing item, like you would want it to fit well and be like
the way that you want it to look on a person.
Yeah,
like,
and that's what I wonder if that's how she meant it. I'm just curious, like, and I don't think like her saying that the person looked too fat is okay. But the statement that she looks too fat in the clothes is specifically like, but she's not saying,
like she knew what this model looked like before she hired her to model, so obviously she didn't think like she's too fat to like model my clothes.
The whole point was that she wanted them to retake the pictures and not with a different model.
Okay,
so I'm kind of wondering if people are
that's kind of giving clarification to me. It's like if she's wanting to reshoot with the same model,
she
not obviously doesn't think that she's like too fat to be a model for her brand. Like,
I will say Matilda Djerf is not trying to argue our point, because I don't think it would go over well with the public if she tried to say it. But that's just like another perspective to maybe like think about.
It changes it for me that she's having the same model retake the pictures.
So she released like a photo on Instagram. It was a pretty standard like I'm really sorry kind of thing. And then she also released an additional statement that was another like influencer apology. But I read her apologies, and they like the second one that she posted was she listed ways that they were going to restructure the company, like with HR, with like just like adding some more like checks and balances to the way that things happen, and like have like a psychologist like come in and like talk to people that work there, do monthly surveys, like if you have any issues, like you can report anything to these people. And I feel like that's a great response.
Yeah.
To change that stuff. And like, but the public isn't satisfied with it, of course.
What do they want? Like, do you know?
They were like, well, they're saying that she's not addressing the fact that she's a bad person. Like, for asking someone to scrub the toilet, which, like, you know how we feel about it. But, like...
Oh, yeah, I think definitely she needs to learn how to speak to her employees and not say, like, you're too fat in those pictures. Like, that's not it. But I do think I kind of agree with what you're saying, that it sounded worse than what was intended. And then again, like we said with the toilet, I don't think that makes her a bad person.
I don't either.
And then the way she handled it and talked about HR and like what she's going to implement to fix things moving forward was a good response to me. So I don't think she's a bad person.
No, I mean, maybe she is a bad person, but at least she's trying to like change the issue. But it's basically just like the public is displeased with what she's doing. But like, what else do you want someone to do as far as damage control goes? My thought is she might be like a bad person and not like represent everything that her brand stands for as much as she like wants people to perceive her that way. But as long as like she was called out for her wrongdoings and is changing it, y'all have got to get over it.
Yeah.
Everybody's just got to get over it.
All right. Next thing, moving on to something fun.
Woo!
Travis Kelce planned a surprise birthday party for Taylor Swift, and it was Eras Tour themed.
I thought it was so cute.
That is so cute.
I'm just glad that she has someone who's like not intimidated by her, and he's like celebrating her and her accomplishments.
Yeah, and she's having like such a good time. The pictures from the party, like she looked like she was living and like having a good time. She had a mic in her hand. And
I think the party, was it a surprise party? I
think I saw that it was a surprise party.
Yeah. And he like planned it all and just did all this, and it's like, oh, yeah.
You just know, like, because I was a theater kid, and like if a song would break out, like we would like do the moves and stuff. You just know at this party that like if a song from the Eras Tour
I didn't know where you were going with this. I was like, okay.
You just know that if a song from the Eras Tour played, they were all like, let's do the dance. Come on, like, let's get in formation.
Oh
And like
my
they
God.
start doing it. You just know. Like that happened for sure.
They had like the willow cloaks and everything. I saw.
They were doing a seance.
So the next story is sad.
Okay, so we had a fun time. We're bringing it back down.
Going
Okay.
down. We're going down. It's sad to me to hear this, but let me like make this more positive. This woman is empowered. Whatever. Okay, Ethan Slater's ex-wife.
Okay.
She comes forward with like her first public statement since Ariana and Ethan like went public with their relationship. So her name is Lilly Jay. It's Ethan Slater's ex-wife. Ethan Slater is SpongeBob, aka the guy from Wicked.
Yeah.
If you don't know,
He's like having a resurgence, and I just can't forget.
he's the problem
Yeah.
to me. But
I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive Ethan Slater.
so Lilly Jay is Ethan's ex-wife. They gave birth to their first child in 2022, and Ariana and Ethan began their relationship in July of 2023. So Lilly was interviewed by, I think I got this wrong. I think Lilly is a clinical psychologist specializing in perinatal mental health and child development. So that's her career. And here are some quotes from the interview in the article at People Magazine.
Says, slowly but surely, I've come to believe that in the absence of the life I planned with my high school sweetheart, a lifetime of sweetness is waiting for me and my child.
Yeah, so she's like, I think, starting to see some positivity. But you have a baby. And
Yeah.
Sloan was born in 2022.
23.
Can you imagine, though, like having to do that by yourself all of a sudden? You know, like they had just had the baby.
And like it's in your face everywhere, like that they left you for like a pop star, like, and that he cheated on you. You've been together for like ever. You just gave birth to his child.
Yeah, that would be awful.
And like when you're postpartum, like you're a little crazy, like just anyways when things are normal. So I can't imagine like her mental state during that.
Yeah, so what she said was kind of interesting because it's not anything that I really thought about whenever I first heard the news, even though like we all like judged and watched from the outside. So she said, I never thought I would get divorced, especially not just after giving birth to my first child, and especially not in the shadow of my husband's new relationship with a celebrity.
In this season of shock and mourning, over a year after the end of my marriage was made public, I deeply missed the life of invisibility I created for myself as a psychologist specializing in women's mental health.
Yeah, that's the thing, like, that I don't think people really thought about whenever all of that news was breaking and they were, like, trying to, like, even, like, take her side and, like, back her up. Like, she became a public figure for the worst reason you can ever imagine. Like, Ethan was already, like, kind of famous or whatever, but she wasn't, and nobody knew who she was.
And, yeah, she wasn't, and he wasn't even to the level that he is now, you know? Like, people didn't know him at that time.
And she said that people from her past have reached out to say that they saw her face in a tabloid. And, like, thinking about her as a therapist going through this really public thing, I think it's in this next statement. She says, at the Children's Hospital, my invisibility was welcome protection from hard conversations for me and my patients. So, like, people confide in her about, like, really, like, private matters and, like, things that, like, you would never share with anyone. And, like, knowing that she's famous and, like, that probably, like, affected her job. Like, a lot. Because who would want to go to a therapist that's, I mean, not that they're going to tell everybody, but, like, there's just an element to it to where it's like, oh.
And I think more in my mind, it's like this barrier. Like when you're their therapist, they're there for you to like, for them to talk to you, you know?
But you like know things about them.
Yeah. And it's like weird being the therapist, knowing that they're coming in and they know that this is going on in your life, this big crazy thing, but you still have to like ask about them and treat them just the same, even though you know that they know. It's like this weird thing.
Yeah, that would be super weird. So she said, and while I still firmly believe in following my patients' leads and not presuming to know what parts of my personhood resonate with them, the publicity I did not consent to increasingly feels like both a challenge and an opportunity.
If I can't be invisible anymore, I may as well introduce myself, she added. You know how a sponge is most effective at absorbing liquid when it's already a bit wet? Maybe we can think about my messy, not so personal life in that way. A dose of my own loss, rage, powerlessness, sadness that helps me hold yours.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just thought her take was like interesting on this.
She's
because,
kind of slaying. Go off, queen.
And she's very like articulate in the way that she says things.
Yeah, like it's literally boss bitch energy. Like, couldn't be me.
I wanted to ask your opinion on this because obviously whenever that whole fallout happened, like Ariana Grande got dragged through it like in every way. And it kind of made me think about Barry Keoghan's situation that we talked about last week, where like people really treated him bad because he allegedly cheated on Sabrina Carpenter. And like, I think it's pretty safe to say that Ariana most likely cheated on her husband, or Ethan cheated on his wife or whatever. But like, what do you think about celebrities being canceled for like things like that? Like, do you think that makes sense?
I don't think it deserves like automatic like cancellation where it's like, oh my God, you still support them, like you need to cancel them, they did this thing that's so incredibly bad. But I think that as a person, like you have a right to kind of feel different about that person for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I just don't think I could really support a man and be like, go off, king, slay, you're so good and wicked, he's amazing, knowing that he cheated on his wife who just had his child. Like, I just think that it makes you see people differently, and that's okay.
Yeah. The Swiftologist, I don't remember what he was talking on, but he was saying that like Gen Z has this like weird obsession with like canceling people for affairs. And it kind of like, I didn't really think about it until he said it. And I was like, yeah, we kind of have like shifted in a way to where like if someone cheats on someone, they're like the devil. And not that it's a good thing to do or anything like that, but I think at the age that we're at now, like you see how normal, like that's like kind of a part of life for a lot of people. Like most people have experienced that in some way. So it's like, at what point is it like, I don't know how I feel. I'm like, the cancellation is like weird for that. That's a weird reaction to me.
Yeah, but I mean, in real life, like you say, it's normal, and it is. But when that happens, people are canceled in real life. Like you're like,
that's true.
You're like, oh my God, he cheated on so and so, or like he cheated on me. Like screw him. Like he's horrible, or like you know what? So it's like they're just on a smaller scale and they're not public figures, but they do get canceled still.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing. I was just laughing at your take. I just thought it was a little funny. I don't know.
That's like,
I just was
diabolical. I'm like over here ranting, and you're like,
I'm sorry. It was just, you did make me think about it. Like in real life, people do really get like canceled for doing that. Like, but you're right. Like you turn your entire friend group and family against someone if they do that to you.
But like, it's not where, like, okay, if somebody likes Jeffree Star, I'm like, why do you like Jeffree Star? Like, because literally everything about him sucks.
Yeah.
You know? But it's not like if somebody...
You were so aggressive about him sometimes.
But like, if somebody likes Barry Keoghan, I'll just be like, yeah, he's pretty great in The Killing of a Sacred Deer, but he fumbled the bag with Sabrina Carpenter. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'd be like, you shouldn't like him. He needs to be canceled. Like, so.
That's true. Yeah. I guess that's all for this week. That's all for this year.
On that note, never like Jeffree Star. We hate him over here.
But yeah, this is our last Hot Topics of the year.
Yes, our next episode is a deep dive, and that's going to be our last episode of the year.
Yeah, so I'm scared of that one. Like, I don't know why. It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Have you edited it?
No.
Nope.
So, yeah. But it's going to be a good one. It's just going to be a little bit heavier.
It was darker than I expected it to be whenever we recorded it. So hopefully you guys like it. But don't forget to check out the bonus episodes of Podmas. Catch up on them if you haven't already. Most of them are like 10 to 13, 15 minutes maybe. So good little extra dose of content
when
there.
You have nothing else to listen to. Not that we're a last choice at all, but...
In case you want to hear a 30th take on all of these wonderful hot topics, I want to check our subscriber count before we go because we were at 99 when we started recording. We're still at 99. God. I was really hoping by the time we stopped with this one, we would be at 100, but that's okay. Is that all you got?
Yeah, that's it. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. We have a goal we're trying to reach, and we need you guys to help us reach it.
Yeah, if you like the podcast, be sure to subscribe and rate us. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or even if you're not, if you have those apps on your phone, rate us 5 stars on there. It helps us go out to new audiences. Don't gatekeep your favorite podcast.
Yes. Share it with your friends. Tell them about us. We love to have more jellies.
Don't be jelly, but be a jelly.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. We hope everyone has an amazing Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah. TTYL.
Bye.